And there is very little content in our thinking that is true.
The way she managed to get through that was hypnosis.
So much stuff going on in your mind that you don't have access to creativity or to problem solving.
Leadership, it can be just like herding cats. Ever tried that before?
Hello and welcome to Leadership Herding Cats. Today we're speaking to Alison Sutton, mindset coach. Alison is a qualified transpersonal psychologist and hypnotherapist who explains today about her radical approach to improve your mindset, make you more productive and better skilled. Before we dive straight in, please do like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you can find out more. But let's find out about this amazing radical approach. I want to hear more. Pete's obviously told me that you're the person to speak to and can help with mindset and dealing with stress and all those things that we all have to deal with. So yeah, just thought we sorry.
Or do we?
Or do we? Exactly that, yes. But give me a little bit of background about yourself first of all. So you're, as you put it, you're a mindset coach, but with a radically different approach. Is that correct?
Yes, that would be correct. Yes. Yeah. So most mindset coaching approaches are looking to deal with problems in the outside world and kind of figuring out strategies and ways of being that we need to be in our mind in order to deal with the outside world. What I'm suggesting and pointing people to is that a lot of the problems that look like they're out there are actually created within the mind. And that giving somebody who is overwhelmed or stressed or anxious more things to remember to do is rarely helpful. So my kind of coaching it's kind of called subtractive psychology. So it's taking things off people's mind, helping them to really be able to see where their experience is coming from in any moment and to change the way that they're seeing things. So people that come to me generally only ever have three things going on. Number one, they've got thinking. We have between 12 and 60,000 thoughts a day. Number two, if you're an overthinker, you probably have even more. Number two is we believe in those thoughts and we believe that they define us and we believe that they are creating how we're feeling or rather that the outside world is. So, and number three, people have forgotten who they really are and forgotten in their own capabilities. And they've covered it up with a pile of thought that tells them they can't do this or they can't do that.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? Because it's kind of hard to describe.
It does make sense. It definitely does. And I think I like what you're saying about trying to simplify what's there. Because I mean, I'm someone that always basically tends to take too much on. And then I'll kind of go, right, I've got to sort some of this out and I'll work early hours in the morning or late hours in the evening when everything's quiet to get things off my list. And I suppose that's probably simplifying it, but it's along the same principle, isn't it? Basically trying to simplify what you're trying to do and sort of, like you say, sort of maybe not overburden people to a degree.
It's more about simplifying the place from which you're coming from. So the person that you're being and the mind that you're being in. So if somebody is feeling overwhelmed, then generally that will then kind of have a load of other thoughts attached to it. So I've taken on all this work and now I'm feeling overwhelmed. But if I don't get this done, then that means, and then that means, and then that means. And then you've got so much stuff going on in your mind that you don't have access to creativity or to problem solving or to your resilience. You know, you've busied your mind so much. I'm trying to help people to get their minds to settle down, get into a kind of a quieter mind so that they have access to their own resources.
Okay. So what was it that sort of made you, because I read online you're a qualified transpersonal psychology and hypnosis?
Hypnotherapist, yeah.
Yeah. So how did you sort of come from that to this? Does it all sort of roll in together? Are those techniques that you use to help?
I don't use those kind of techniques so much these days. That was where my kind of psychology training started, if you like. It started off in transpersonal hypnotherapy, and then that led on to various other things, including doing life coaching with the Coaching Academy and NLP training. So I'm an NLP master practitioner. And then that kind of just led on to various other things until I came across something called 3 principles coaching, which is what I do now. And that was just so simple and made so much sense, because it's sharing fundamental principles of our psychology and how we are creating our moment-to-moment experience from the inside going out, rather than dealing with loads of stuff on the outside coming in and feeling like we need tools and techniques to sort that out.
Yeah.
So it was kind of an evolving journey, if you like. I occasionally do hypnosis now, but it's always informed from the 3 principles approach, the inside out approach.
So just tell me a little bit more about that journey. How did it progress from when you, with the coaching you were doing before then? Was it around sort of mindset and stress and things, or did it progress into that?
Around lots of things, really, from how to improve my golf swing and my golf techniques to how to, all the kind of conventional things that people go to a hypnotherapist for.
Yeah.
How to give up smoking, how to lose weight, all of that kind of thing. But I just was figuring out that there was something that just wasn't quite gelling. It was like I just haven't found it. I'm helping people to believe that they've got a problem that they need to sort out that is causing them suffering of some kind. People would come to me generally because they either wanted to feel better and have less suffering, or they wanted to do better and, create more success in their lives. Yeah. And I figured out that I was, I could just see that wasn't that help. It's helpful to an extent, but it's not that helpful to help people to become invested in the fact that there is a problem that they need to solve, because the problems just aren't out there. They're in here.
Yeah.
You've got that confused face that most people do have.
No, I do get where you're coming from, and I'm trying not to overlink the hypnosis, but from my personal experience, so my wife suffered from anxiety and panic attacks for quite a period of time when we were younger, and actually, first of all, she was prescribed antidepressants, which had a horrible effect on her. So she was only on them for a few days, and after that it was a case of no, never again. And actually the way she managed to get through that was hypnosis. Basically, and it kind of, to me, it feels, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to me it feels very similar to what you're saying can work, because it was controlling or not controlling, that's the wrong word, managing the thoughts that are in the mind, trying to clear the mind of the certain thoughts, because actually at the time we couldn't pinpoint why she was having these attacks. She felt very happy in her life. We were quite happy together and everything else, but she couldn't figure it out. Yet she'd have panic attacks all sorts of times of the day for different reasons. But it was, a lot of it was the hypnosis that helped her get through those situations. And thankfully that was many years ago, and she doesn't have a problem with it anymore. But I'm interested to know how that kind of how you think that kind of links, and is that along the same sort of basis of trying to manage the thought pattern and your mindset of what's going on? Before we dive too deep into this week's podcast, I want to tell you a little bit about our sponsors, which is Vapor Clean Commercial Cleaning Services. Vapor Clean provides commercial contract cleaning throughout the Southwest. If you run a business with premises that need cleaning on a daily basis, then we can provide that service for you regularly, sufficiently, and consistently to the highest standard. We provide trained professional operatives that are audited and supported the right way, making sure you have the highest standards all year round. So if you want to know more, get in touch. But for now, back to the podcast.
If we're talking about managing thoughts, first of all, that's a really difficult thing to do, because we are sort of the space within which the thoughts arise. We're not generating the thoughts. So trying to manage thought is really a really difficult thing to do. And it becomes, if I'm having a panic attack, I've got to now manage my thinking. It's like something else to get anxious about. So this is more about understanding that there is very little of our thoughts that we need to take seriously. And there is very little content in our thinking that is true. Most of our thoughts are just made up stuff. I call it the itty bitty shitty committee that kind of sits in your head and makes all this stuff up. And then we believe it. And then it looks like we need to do something about what we've believed in.
Yeah.
Whereas this approach kind of takes a step further back. So that is the consequences. That's further downstream. So this approach is further upstream and has people understand that there is very little of their thinking that they actually need to pay attention to or take seriously. So for people with anxiety, and anxiety is an interesting one because it's such a felt experience. And the mind and the body don't know the difference between what is real and what's imaginary. So we might be imagining something that's not even actually happening in this moment, but we can have a very felt experience of it as if it is.
Mm.
And that's all we're ever doing. We're having a felt experience of what we're believing to be true in the moment. And there is so little of what goes on in here that is worth believing in.
Yeah. I love that phrase, by the way. the itty bitty shitty committee. I love that. No, but yeah, that makes a little bit more sense when you look at it, when you explain it like that. I think that's definitely kind of clears it up for me and makes a little bit more sense. And I suppose it does tie into what you said to me again when we were speaking before on the phone. You said about people create the experience of the external circumstances.
Yeah.
So just explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, so I was having a coaching call today with somebody, and this is kind of a very simple example that's not really related to business. Okay, so it's one of my clients whose dog is very unwell, and she was saying to me, she was telling me about her husband has experienced it. Her husband is looking at, so there is the facts. The facts are the dog is unwell. Now he's looking out through his lenses and his way of seeing the world. And from the dog being unwell, he's creating an experience that he's telling him, bad things always happen to me. Nothing ever goes right in my life. I never have any luck. There is nothing good that ever happens to me. She's working with the same facts, but all she is seeing is the dog being ill. But in her mind, the way she sees that is So things usually turn out really well for me. I can have some hope here. I can, I think the dog's going to get well. We're going to be able to do the treatment. So same set of circumstances, but the lenses through which people are looking will create their experience of those circumstances. And so conventional coaching, just to kind of loop back a bit, conventional coaching, if somebody with the, everything's going wrong in my life, went to a conventional coach or a therapist or a counsellor, they would have them look at, well, how can you cope with this, with this? How can we give you the tools and techniques to help you to believe that things aren't always going wrong in your life? And where did that come from back in your childhood and all of the rest of it? But what I do is I help people to see how they are creating that experience for themselves. So I often talk about hot plates. So, the lenses that we're looking through creates this kind of hot plate in front of us that we're putting our hand on and burning our hand and creating suffering for ourselves. But that hot plate was never there in the first place. It's been created from the internal perspective, the thoughts that are being believed in, and then we're behaving as if it's true, and then feeling the suffering or the pain of that. But it can't be the circumstances, because then both people will be having exactly the same experience, but they're creating two entirely different experiences of the same external thing.
So what's the most important thing to do then to try and change that sort of outlook and that way of thinking?
I guess the most important thing is to learn how your psychology works. Learn how. Notice where you're putting your attention, and learn how you behave when you believe in a thought, and start to unpick all of your own thinking to the point where you realize that, as I said, thoughts come and thoughts go, and they have feelings attached to them. And it looks like those feelings are coming from outside, but they're not. And there could be another thought along in any moment, which would create a different feeling. So it's, a lot of it is about understanding your own psychology, understanding how you're creating your moment-to-moment experience in the world, understanding that nothing is coming from outside, it's all coming from inside. So it's about an understanding of fundamental principles that then underpin who we are being in the world, and then the results that we're creating from that being.
What would you say then are the biggest benefits of changing the way we think about things and having that different sort of mindset?
Yeah, well, just having a quieter mind, just having a quieter mind. When you have a quieter mind, you ask most people where their inspiration comes from. They will say, oh, it was when I was out running, or when I was in the shower, or when I was cooking supper, and I wasn't even thinking about the thing that I've been trying to figure out. So it's encouraging and inviting people into more of that state, more of the time, so that when your mind is quiet, you have access to your own innate abilities that you may not be seeing. I have a prop, but obviously you can't see that in a recording.
No.
But I'll explain. So it's a snow globe.
Yeah.
So when you shake the snow globe up, you've got all this stuff going in front of your eyes. You can't see what you're doing. You can't see clearly. You've got a busy mind. When you just leave it alone and don't try and get in there and give it more to do and give it more problems to solve, when you just leave it alone, it just starts to settle down. And when your thinking starts to settle down, then suddenly you can just see clearly again. You can access the parts of yourself that are hidden when you've got so much going on in your head. So that's that's really, was it the benefits? Did you ask me what the benefits are?
Yeah, it was the benefits. For me, that kind of begs the question, because I'm the world's worst. I'm the type of person that can't sit still. I can't sit in a room. I've either got to have a TV on, a computer on. If I'm not working, you know, I've always got to be busy. I've always got to be doing something. In fact, the last couple of days I have been running again because I need to get myself a bit more in the right place. I've been a bit in the wrong place this week, so I'm trying to do that. So I've been running again, but even while I'm running, my mind is going all the time about all the things that I've been dealing with this week. So do you have any actionable tips that we can sort of apply to get the mind to settle? Because for me, I'm like, that sounds like heaven. Get my mind to settle and get all their worries off my mind.
Yeah.
Sorry to leave it on a cliffhanger, but you're going to have to tune in next week to find out more. We discuss that stress is your own making. Is it possible to change your own mindset? Let us know in the comments. And please do like and subscribe on your chosen platform. See you next week.